Did you know that nearly half of women say they feel some level of distress about their orgasms? Now, distress can mean several things. Some women wish they could reach orgasm faster, some wish it happened more often, and others simply feel dissatisfied with how easily or how quickly they are able to climax. I'm Dr. Rena, a urologist and pelvic surgeon, and today we're going to look at research that explored which activities during partnered sex actually help improve orgasms for women. Before we begin, it's important to say that an orgasm isn't required for pleasure. However, experiencing an orgasm is strongly connected with having a more satisfying sexual experience. So the question becomes, what actually increases the chances that a woman will reach orgasm or reach it more quickly? To find out, a group of researchers studied more than 2,000 women. Their goal was to understand which activities people engage in during sex that influence how long it takes to reach orgasm, how pleasurable that orgasm feels, and how easy or difficult it is to achieve. They examined 3 groups of women. Some were from the United States and were recruited through Reddit or Facebook research pages. Others were from Hungary, either through similar websites or through a Hungarian university. All of these women were in sexual relationships and completed a very detailed survey with about 42 questions. The survey looked at their sexual history, the nature of their relationships, and several other factors connected to arousal and orgasm during both partnered sex and masturbation. The researchers also measured something called orgasmic latency. This was self-reported by the participants, but it refers to the amount of time it takes someone to reach orgasm. It can apply to either partnered sex or masturbation. As a starting point, these women were relatively young, with an average age of 29. About 20% reported experiencing depression or anxiety, and around 13% said they had never had an orgasm. That number might sound surprisingly high, but it actually matches findings from several other studies, which show that roughly 12% of women never experience orgasm. When the researchers asked what kinds of activities these women engaged in during partnered sex, the results weren't too surprising. The most common activity was vaginal intercourse, reported by about 94% of participants. This was followed by oral stimulation of their partner's genitals, which was reported by almost 80%. About 75% said their partner performed oral stimulation on them, and around the same number reported receiving manual stimulation from their partner. Finally, clitoral stimulation was reported by about 61% of the women. They also reported several other activities that were less common. These included things like anal stimulation, using aids such as toys, incorporating sexual fantasies, which could include kink-related elements, or mutual masturbation. Overall, these activities were reported by fewer than 20% of the women. The researchers then placed these activities into 3 categories. The first group involved only vaginal penetration with no additional activities. The second group was considered the conventional group, meaning vaginal penetration along with another activity that was fairly common. The final group was labeled less conventional, meaning they included those less common behaviors such as anal stimulation, sexual fantasies, and similar activities. What the researchers discovered was interesting. The amount of time it took women to reach orgasm was not significantly affected by whether the activity was conventional or unconventional. However, the level of pleasure did change. Women reported greater pleasure when more unusual or varied activities were included. They also found that the difficulty of reaching orgasm changed depending on how unconventional the activity was. In general, the more unconventional the activity, the easier it became for many women to reach orgasm. Finally, when it came to relationship satisfaction, the results were very clear. How satisfied women felt in their relationship influenced every factor measured: how long it took to reach orgasm, how pleasurable it felt, and how easy or difficult it was to achieve. Now, does this mean you should immediately start adding unconventional activities to your sex life if you're not already doing so? Not necessarily. One important limitation of the study is the type of participants it attracted. The women who chose to take part were self-selected. They were already willing to participate in a sexual survey. Some of the women who reported less conventional activities may simply be more open when communicating with their partners. They might feel more comfortable discussing what they like and dislike, and that openness could help them better shape their experiences in ways that increase pleasure. You might also be wondering whether certain activities were more likely to increase pleasure, or whether some helped women reach orgasm more quickly. When it comes to pleasure, the activities that had the greatest effect were when a partner provided oral stimulation to the genitals, when there was manual stimulation from the partner, and when clitoral stimulation was involved. For those of you who have been following this channel for a long time, that probably isn't too surprising. You may already know that the clitoris is considered the anatomical counterpart, or homologue, of the penis. Because of that, stimulating the clitoris tends to be the most reliable way for many women to achieve orgasm. When it comes to orgasmic latency, meaning the time it takes to reach orgasm, women who received manual stimulation and clitoral stimulation from their partner did tend to reach orgasm a little faster than those who did not. However, the difference was relatively small, usually only about 1 to 2 minutes. On average, the time dropped from about 16 minutes to roughly 14 minutes. So, if you remember from one of my earlier videos, we talked about how long it usually takes to reach climax. On average, it takes the typical woman around 12 minutes to reach orgasm. With that in mind, let's break down what truly matters when it comes to increasing pleasure and improving orgasms in a relationship. The first and most important factor is relationship satisfaction. Feeling happy and secure in your relationship turned out to be a strong predictor of almost everything connected to orgasm. This likely happens because when you feel good about your relationship, several positive things tend to follow that can improve your sex life as well. For instance, couples in more satisfying relationships are usually more comfortable talking openly about sex. They often feel closer to each other, more emotionally connected, and more attracted to one another. When both partners feel desired and appreciated, it becomes easier to focus on enjoying each other's pleasure, which naturally improves the overall experience. The next step to consider is including clitoral stimulation. This topic appears again and again in research because, as I mentioned earlier, the clitoris is the most reliable and consistent source of pleasure and orgasm for the majority of women. So it's important to make use of what you naturally have available. Hands, oral stimulation, or even sex toys can all help provide clitoral stimulation. These are not meant to replace intimacy between partners. They are simply tools that can enhance pleasure and support a more satisfying experience. Finally, you might consider expanding your sexual repertoire. This doesn't mean everyone must try new things, and not every couple will feel interested or comfortable exploring different activities. However, for some couples, trying something new can feel exciting, adventurous, and may even lead to greater enjoyment in the bedroom. Of course, communication is essential. Before introducing anything new, talk with your partner about it. Have those conversations outside the bedroom where both of you can feel relaxed and comfortable. Bringing up something new during an intimate moment can sometimes feel overwhelming or unexpected, so discussing it beforehand can make the experience much more positive for both of you. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, remember to take good care of yourself, because you truly deserve it.